Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Bradadana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bradadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jayora Dhammadhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Bradadana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Jayora Dhammadhava Kunja Bihari Jayora Dhammadhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Book Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Pramangsa Paruraj Kacharya Satara Satasi Srimad Nirada Swami Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Pramangsa Paruraj Kacharya Satara Satasi Srimad Nirada Swami Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananda Guru Vaishnava Ki Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Agarisa Samudevotis, Agarisa Samudevotis, Agarisa Samudevotis, Agarisa Si Gurung Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 8th chapter, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home, text number 58. Paricharya Bhagavato, Paricharya Bhagavato, Yavatyak Purva Sevitaha, Yavatyak Purva Sevitaha, Ta Mantra Hridayena Ta Mantra Hridayena Praryunjan Mantra Murtaye Prayunjan Mantra Murtaye Paricharya Bhagavato Yavatyak Purva Sevitaha Ta Mantra Hridayena Prayunjan Mantra Murtaye. Purva Sevita Hridayena eva Paranjan Mantra Murtaye. Ladies. Hariya Bhagavato. Una más. Paricharya Bhagavato Purva Sevitaha Paricharyaha service Bhagavataha of the personality of Godhead. Yavatyaha as they are prescribed, as above mentioned. purvasevitaha. Recommended or done by previous acharyas. Taha, that. Mantra, hymns. Hridayena, within the heart. Eva, certainly. Prayunjat, one should worship. Mantramurtaye, who is none different from the mantra. Translation per Prabhupada's Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One should follow in the footsteps of previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia. Or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the personality of Godhead, who is none different from the mantra. Purport. It is recommended here that even if one cannot arrange to worship the forms of the Lord with all recommended paraphernalia, one can simply think about the form of the Lord and mentally offer everything recommended in the Shastras, including flowers, chandan pulp, conch shell, umbrella, fan, and chamara. One can meditate upon offering and chant the 12-syllable mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Since the mantra and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-different, one can worship the form of the Lord with the mantra, in the absence of physical paraphernalia. The story of the Brahmin who worshipped the Lord within his mind, as related in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or the Nectar of Devotion, should be consulted in this connection. If paraphernalia is not present physically, one can think of the items and offer them to the deity by chanting the mantra. Such are the liberal and potent facilities in the process of devotional service. Paricharya bhagavato yavatyak purvasevitaha tamantra hridayena prayunjan mantra murtaye. One should follow in the footsteps of previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia. Or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the personality of Godhead, who is none different from the mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Jayasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. With the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis. So here, Narada Muni is continuing his instruction to Dhruva Maharaj. Narada Muni always appears when there is a great opportunity to share Krishna consciousness. So Dhruva had left the palace, feeling very upset and insulted. Yet on the good advice of his mother, he went to the forest to search for Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, who could fulfill all his desires. How many desires did Dhruva have? A lot of desires. He was very ambitious. And Narada Muni appeared, and he tested him like a proper spiritual master does. He tests his disciple. He doesn't say, oh yeah, one more, okay, 100 more, 1,000 more. No, he tests him. And he told him, you're just a young boy, why don't you go play a little bit, you know? Some days are good, some days are bad, sometimes it rains, sometimes it shines, and you know, you just gotta make do with it and go on with your life. And he gave him a whole bunch of other nice instructions. But Dhruva said, I'm in ignorance, so all of this does not appeal to me. I'm a Kshatriya. And he said very plainly that I want revenge. I've been offended, and I want to get justice, because justice is what Kshatriyas are all about. And no matter what it takes, I will do it to get that justice. You know that mood, that attitude, when you're like, okay, I'm going to show them. Never underestimate the power of I'm going to show them. So, then, Narada Muni, recognizing the nature and the conditioning of his disciple, he gave him instructions that were relevant for him, how he could elevate his consciousness to Krishna consciousness, yet at the same time fulfill his desires. Why would Dhruva have to fulfill his desires? Why couldn't he just transcend his desires and go back home, back to Godhead? Because unless and until those desires are fulfilled and purified, there is no going back home, back to Godhead, because those desires will keep one within the material world. Those ambitions will keep one here in this realm. So, of course, that will come later. Dhruva was greatly lamenting the fact that he had such desires and that he was looking for inferior things. But we're not there yet. So here, Narada Muni is explaining to him, first of all, the process of meditation and how Dhruva could focus himself on the Supreme Personality of Godhead through chanting his mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya was the mantra that he had given him, and he told him how to chant this mantra. Chant it 3 times a day, with full concentration, without any deviation. And also, as we heard in the last verse, to worship the form of the Lord as his deity. The Lord is the origin of all beauty, so that means certainly he has to have form. Transcendental, spiritual form, but form nonetheless. So, and he gave him the means how to worship the deity, yet Dhruva was in the forest. What kind of a deity can you make in the forest? Yeah, exactly, like that. You can get some earth, right, with a little bit of water, and you can make some form. But that will make do. Why? Because the Lord is not limited. The Lord is not limited to a particular time or place or circumstance. The Lord can appear in unlimited forms. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam adyak purana purusham navayovanam cha. And he is always the supremely attractive. So, and in today's verse, he's telling Dhruva, if you don't have any facility to do any of that, you can worship the Lord in your mind. You can worship the Lord in your mind. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada points out this beautiful story from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where there was a South Indian Brahmin who wanted to worship the Lord as he had heard from authorities that you should worship the deity of the Lord, yet he was very poor. He did not have any facility. So what did he do? Every day he would go to the river, he would take bath, wash his clothes, then sit down and meditate, and in his mind he would worship the deity with all the paraphernalia, the most opulent kind of worship. He was bathing the Lord, he was dressing the Lord, he was ornamenting the Lord, he was putting chandan on him and all kinds of feathers and decorations and ornaments. And he would cook beautiful dishes to offer to the Lord. Now, one day he cooked sweet rice, param anna, the greatest form of anna, the most delicious sweet rice. Yet he was not sure if this rice, this sweet rice, was fit to be offered to the Lord, because he had just cooked it, and not wanting to be impatient, he thought that let me see whether this temperature is adequate, because sweet rice is best when it is taken cool, not hot. So he touched it with his finger. That is all happening in his meditation, in his mind. And his finger burned. He felt so much pain that his meditation broke. And he came to his external consciousness, and he watched his finger, and his finger was burnt. And he was very puzzled by this, because all his worship had taken place in his mind. Yet the burn was on the physical plane. Meanwhile, in Vaikuntha, Vishnu is smiling, and Lakshmi, who is the very perceptive consort, she asks him, "What are you smiling about?" And he just, had the desire. Parasya Shakti Hridaya Vashruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. So Vishnu Dutas, they went and they got this Brahman in a Vaikuntha airplane to come back to the spiritual world, and then that would solve the mystery why he smiled. That explained the smile of the Lord. So how can we see the Lord smile? How can we attract the smile of the Lord? Atapite deva bhajambujadvaya prasadaleshanu grihita evahi janasya tattvam bhagavan mahim no nachanyam ekam viro vichinvan. One word missing, last line. Viran vichinvan. Thank you. That's why you need the sadhus, because otherwise one word goes missing and it's all, opposite effect. Back to the drawing board. So, Lord Brahma, after the Brahma Vimohana Lila, he was admitting that some people, they may say that I'm very intelligent. He's the Adi engineer. He's the original engineer. His entire body consists of pure intelligence. Yet, after he had tried to play tricks with Krishna, he came to the conclusion that without a little bit, a small fraction of mercy of Krishna, I cannot understand Krishna. So how can we get that fraction of mercy of the Lord? We can get it by pleasing the devotees of the Lord. Today is Rakeshwar Pandit's appearance day. Rakeshwar Pandit is an incarnation of Tunga Vidya Gopi, and he appeared in Lord Chaitanya's pastime, and he was continuously dancing for the pleasure of the Lord, up to 72 hours, 3 days and nights, non-stop, he would dance for the pleasure of the Lord. And there was many occasions for him to dance, because the kirtan was ongoing. Every day there was kirtan. They would perform kirtan in Navadvip, they would perform kirtan at Srivazangan. So, one time Srivas Thakur, one of the very intimate associates of the Lord, he went and he sat down in Devananda Pandit's place, where Devananda Pandit was a scholar. He was a Brahmin, he was a scholar of the scriptures, yet he was an impersonalist. He was a Mayavadi, but he was giving lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srivas Thakur, he wandered into that assembly and he sat down, and as he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, just by hearing the words of the Bhagavatam, he felt so much ecstasy, he felt so much happiness in his heart. He felt into a swoon. He went into trance. And he started swooning. So some of the ignorant disciples of Devananda Pandit thought, this person is a disturbance. So they picked him up and brought him outside and dropped him on the road. And Devananda Pandit felt a little pain in his heart, but he just walked away. So Lord Chaitanya, who is omniscient, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he was asked about Devananda Pandit, he wanted nothing to do with this person, because Devananda Pandit had offended Srivas Thakur, and he was an impersonalist. But sometimes later on, Rakeshwar Pandit was in that area, and he was performing his ecstatic dance. He was dancing in kirtan for 6 hours. And somehow Devananda Pandit heard about it. And he went there. And he was so enamored by the dancing of Rakeshwar Pandit that he was guarding his dancing with a stick in his hand. And he was guarding his wonderful kirtan dancing. And he did that for 6 hours. And afterwards, after the dancing, he offered his prostrated obeisances and took shelter at the lotus feet of Rakeshwar Pandit. And Rakeshwar Pandit, being very pleased with the service of Devananda Pandit, he gave him shelter. So later on, Lord Chaitanya, he heard about this and he recognized him and he accepted him. Why? Because he had served his devotee. He had served his devotee. So, if you look into our own hearts, sometimes there might be tendencies like Dhruva's. We are very ambitious, or we have material desires. We have there's still some impersonal contamination. There might be envy against devotees. I don't know. Has this ever happened to you? Or is it just me? Anyone? It says that when you meet somebody who is more qualified, you should feel very happy and you should try to somehow get some blessings, some mercy from these personalities. And if you meet someone who is equal, then you should make friendship with them and collaborate to expand the mission. And when you meet people who are less advanced or less fortunate, then you should show kindness, compassion towards them. That is the way how a Vaishnav behaves. Ishvara tadadineshu baliseshu divsatsucha prema maitrika kripa upeksha yakaroti samadhima. And of course, upeksha, those who are envious and devious, they should be avoided. They should be neglected. That upeksha, that is the kindness for them. Otherwise, they will commit more offense. So, yesterday, one of my dear god brothers, Tapas Prabhu, who is from Norway, but he served in Norway and in Sweden and all over Scandinavia, he passed away. He'd done 4.5 decades of devotional service. He was illustrious in book distribution. He was a temple president. He ran a restaurant. He was a leader in many ways. And his name was very adequate, Tapas Prabhu. He was solid. He was very dedicated to the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was happy to serve in whichever capacity was necessary. He did book distribution. He was a Sankirtan leader. He was a preacher. He ran temples. He ran restaurants. He built community. He was illustrious in many ways. And also in the way how he left this world, because his lungs were malfunctioning, yet he was just absorbed in Krishna Katha up to his last breath. So this gives us solace, this gives us hope that it is possible, by the blessings, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, it is possible to attain the ultimate destination. As Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the material world is a difficult place. It's called Durga, Durgama. Going is very difficult. Have you noticed how it's not so easy to move in this world? There's so many obstacles. Yet he says, with the stick of the mercy of the Vaishnavas, it is quite possible to traverse this difficult place and attain the lotus feet of Krishna, attain pure devotional service. So, how to focus our mind? Savaimana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachang Sivaikunta Gunanu Varnane. These beautiful verses about Maharaj Ambarish explain how he was constantly meditating in his mind how to clean the temple, how to make beautiful arrangements for the worship of the Lord, how to associate with devotees, how to expand Krishna's glories. That was his meditation. And he was so pure that when Durvasa Muni, who was a great renunciate, a great mystic, attacked him with that demon that he created, Maharaj Ambarish, he was not fazed the least. He was not perturbed. Why? Because in his mind, he was just focused on Krishna. He wasn't worried, oh, there's a demon coming to kill me. He was just taking shelter of devotional service. He was just fully absorbed in Krishna. And Durvasa Muni, even though he had 60,000 disciples, he could not conquer this grihastha. It was not possible. So, these are lessons from the Bhagavatam, and we can study them, and we can see how they apply in our own lives. Now, how we do that Manasa Seva? Have you tried? Anyone tried Manasa Seva? It's an acquired practice. It's not so easy. Why? Because so many distractions, right? So many distractions. Even if you're in a peaceful place, if your mind is not peaceful, then you're in the middle of turmoil, of a storm. If you ever make the mistake of switching on your phone and checking messages before chanting your japa, have you ever tried that? Not that we recommend it. In fact, we recommend you not to do that. Have you noticed how your japa, your attention decreased? Have you ever seen people with their bead bag in one hand and their phone in the other hand? This should be the sign, like, no, don't do this, Don't do this to yourself. Why? Because the mind is easily distracted. It's easily diverted. And then we start meditating about all these problems and things that need to be done or need to be taken care of or looked into. It can be very distractive. So because we have very little attention, we should repose our attention exclusively on Krishna. And how do we do that? How do we do that? It's very easy to say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But how long can you don't? We have to see, where is my attraction? What is actually my attraction? What compels me? What attracts me? Now, even though Shri Radha Govinda, they're all attractive, how many persons are here to appreciate their beauty? And how many persons are still running around looking for Chapala Sukha, looking for the mirage, looking for the perverted reflection in the world? But devotees who have appreciation, who have taste, they can share that taste with others by their own example. People need pratyaksha. They need pratyaksha. Without pratyaksha, there is no susukam kartumavyayam. You have to have pratyaksha. You have to have a direct experience. And you can only get that from persons who have that experience. Because Narad Muni had that experience. He had that taste. He could convey it to Dhruva very easily. You can only give what you got. One time I was in Rishikesh with a few friends doing Harinam Sankirtan, and I met a yoga teacher from the Ukraine. It was around the International Yoga Festival in February, March. So I handed him the Bhagavad Gita, and he said, I'm a yoga teacher. I know all this. So I realized if I say one more word, it's game over. You know that situation? One more word, game over? And you just have to zip it, you can't say nothing. So then, what's your option? Manasa Seva, right? You just have to go internal. And in my heart of hearts, I was praying, Krishna, if I've ever been a good boy, if I've ever chanted your name, please give some mercy to this person. He's a teacher. He's got students. Right now, there is some obstacle on his path. Please remove it. After a few moments, he looked up and he looked at me and he said, I feel love coming from your heart. How much is the book? I could not reach him. It was impossible. Because what do you tell to impress a yoga teacher from Ukraine? So, but Krishna could reach him because Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. Another time I was in San Francisco I met a person that took a book. It was a very nice exchange. The person walks away, and I thought, oh, I should have taught him the mantra. I should have given him beads. I could have done more. Have you had that feeling? I let him off easy. Why didn't I tell him more? And just as I was thinking like that, the person came back to thank me for the exchange that we just had. And I said, and by the way, there is this mantra that I would like to give you. And I gave him the mantra and I gave him beads. So don't underestimate Manasa Seva. You want to learn it? You want to try it out? Harinam Sankirtan. It's always available. You will see that there are certain people, you cannot reach them. But Krishna can reach them. He's in the heart of every living entity. I was in the marketplace of Guanajuato in Mexico. And there was a very distinguished looking aristocratic gentleman in a three-piece suit with a pocket golden watch and a cane and rings and nice shoes. And before I even said a word, he snapped at me, "What you're trying to do here?" And I was a little puzzled, because normally it's yourself truly who asks the questions, not the other party. So the tables got turned on me, and I was lost for words. What do you say if you don't know what to say? Have you ever been in a situation where you didn't know what to say? Of course you can say, "That is a very good question," and that will buy you like 3 moments, where you can think, okay, like when they ask you at the border, "Where do you come from?" It means like, were you born? What's your nationality? Where did you board the flight? Where did you transit? No, you have to know, what does this person want to hear? And for that, matak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. We need to be in touch with Krishna, the Lord in the heart. And how do we do that? We need to have humility, we need to have a prayerful attitude, and we need the mercy of the Vaishnavas. That in that moment, the moment of truth, we have the clarity to actually take shelter and say, "Krishna, I need a miracle right now." Because there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can say to actually make a difference, to actually impress this person. But you can, because you're the one who made the game. You know the rules of the game. You can change anything as you please. So I told that gentleman, I'm trying to develop introspection and humility through selfless service. And he said, humility and introspection through selfless service. He had a handlebar mustache, He was twirling it, and he was saying, humility and introspection through selfless service. How much is your book? I could not reach him. I could not say anything that would impress this man. He was maybe a judge or a politician or something, a very accomplished, distinguished gentleman. But Krishna could reach him. Krishna could reach him. Have you ever met people that you could not reach? And I'm not just talking on the street, because there's countless of them, but sometimes you have people who are closer to you. They may be family, they may be friends, they may be other devotees, but you can't reach them. Even though you try to talk to them, but it doesn't really reach. Have you had that situation? Yeah? But Krishna can reach them. Krishna can reach them. When I was in the Urals, there was a elderly lady, her name is Tulsi Rupini, in Yekaterinburg, and she's big mama, very healthy, as they say, in India. And she doesn't run around, she just stands in the middle of the walking street and she just calls people over. And she says, come here, come here, come here. My son, this is very good for you. This will make you happy. Take it. Now sometimes people say, I don't have any money. She said, that's okay. You can bring me something tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you. Here. And so people come back the next day, they bring her money because you don't want to steal from your grandmother, So she had a problem that in her family, nobody was a devotee. She had many children and many grandchildren. And everybody thought she'd gone crazy. Everybody thought grandma has gone loco, she's pagal, and, no hope. And they were avoiding her. But she wanted them to become devotees. So what she do? When she went to India, she took pictures of all her family members. She laminated them. She bathed them in all the holy kunds and holy waters. She put holy dust on all the pictures. She was offering Mahaprasad of the deities to all the pictures. And she was intensely praying that Krishna, please give opportunity to all these souls and give them devotional service. And when she came back, one by one, the vast majority of her family all became devotees. So never underestimate the prayers of a grandmother. And never underestimate the blessings and the good wishes of the devotees. So for us, this is a very historic place, and we just came here to get blessings and association from the Vaishnavas, because the path in the material world is long and it's quite difficult at times. But with the blessings and the mercy of the Vaishnavas, it's possible to traverse this difficult place. We can focus on Manasa Seva. Yet Srila Prabhupada gave us a very practical process. He gave us something very practical to do, knowing our nature, knowing our impatience, knowing our ambitions, knowing our material involvement. He gave us the process of devotional service. And of course, Manasa Seva is part of it. But when you have the paraphernalia, it's not that you have to just do Manasa Seva. You can also actually execute it. Sometimes people may take this as an excuse. And they say, yeah, I already gave. I gave at the office, Like, I already done all this. I've already figured it all out in my own mind and in my own heart. No, we should also actually physically engage in this service. And then that will help us to improve our meditation, our absorption on Krishna, on our mental plane, and to absorb our thinking, feeling, willing in Krishna. Now, in previous ages, if you had a bad thought, immediately you got the reaction, because it's so powerful. In this age of Kali, if you think of bad things, you don't get the reaction. But be careful, because thinking, feeling, willing, doing, it's a progressive, it's a slippery slope. So you have to catch it early. But if you think about devotional service, you already get benefit. But then when you actually execute it, you get more benefit. So we should not take that liberty that we say, yeah, I was there at the morning program. I'm always with you guys, in spirits, right? No, we say all glories to all the assembled and to all the disassembled devotees. But we would like to have more Sangha. And that means, how can we appreciate? How can we collaborate? How can we support and enthuse each other to engage more and more in this Harinam Sankirtan? Because alone, it's not easy. Have you tried? Have you tried? Go alone out on the street? Once I was up in Rishikesh just with Sarvabhauma Prabhu, Houston Sarvabhauma,
Hare Krishna, thank you for the inspiring class. So my question is, you are recollecting some of the experiences where you did Manasa Seva and it really worked out. But we also have experiences when it doesn't work. So how do we deal with that? Because when you go with, when we do Manasa Puja, it worked out. So that gives us more confidence to do Manasa Seva next time. But when it doesn't work out, then we start questioning and maybe depending on our own capabilities next time. So how do you handle it?
How do you handle it? You just have to see that it's Krishna's mercy. It's Krishna's mercy. Whether he's Yugaitam Nimeshena Chakshusha Pravishaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahinami. Whether it's Krishna's call. Whether he wants to manifest himself through his presence or through his absence, whether he embraces me or he crushes me, or he kicks me far away, casts me away, it's all his mercy. It's all his mercy. Of course, we like these sweet stories of, happy ending. But sometimes it looks like it's not a sweet story of happy ending. Just like the Bhagavatam is known as the story of Vritrasura. Okay, Chitraketu was flying high. He was... And then he made a little comment that could be interpreted in different ways. And he got cursed. And he was in a demon's body. He was killed by Indra. But he was jubilant. He was celebrating. Because he's going back to God. It's like somebody leaves this world to continue their service somewhere else and to go back home, back to God. And we're left here lamenting, but they're celebrating. So it really depends on how we see the situation. Yes?
Thank you. You're such a good storyteller. I'm going to ask you two stories. Because I'm sure a lot of the devotees here don't know how you came to Krishna. So maybe you can tell that. And also, that grandma, how did she come to Krishna? I traveled in Russia, so I know a lot of the temples there, it's mostly older women. I noted that. Traveling in Russia, a lot of the temples are mostly older women. You don't see too many old men, and you don't see too many young people, at least when I was traveling there. Now it's a different situation. A lot of young people join. So how did this grandma come to Krishna, and how did you come to Krishna?
I don't know. I don't know the details, but most devotees in Russia, they came through the books. They came to the books. Or they saw the Harinam and then they got a book. But that's how most devotees came, especially the earlier generations. Now a lot of them also come through seminars and lectures and public programs like that. But it's all based on the books, so you can say they come from the books. Because it's all Prabhupada's prayer, Prabhupada's purity, Prabhupada's potency that's permeating in all these different ways and attracting sincere souls who are recognizing, yes, there is something of substance here. As for ourselves, we went to a boarding school in the Swiss Alps and we're in arts class doing some carving in linoleum, we make pictures. So I was doing a Buddhist Lama, and my friend, he had Bhagavad Gita, and he was doing Prabhupada's form. And so I wanted to look at what he was doing, and it wasn't really that close to him, but the book intrigued me. And I asked him, can I have it? And he said, no, you can't have it, it's mine. I'll show it to you, but you can't have it. So you know what happens when you tell a 15-year-old you can't have it? What happens? He wants it. He wants it. And he knows how he'll get it. Yeah. Because that's what 15-year-olds do. They figure out how to get things. So, that's long story short. So Prabhupada's potency and his prayer, he was meditating all his life on the instructions of a spiritual master. 43 years in preparation. preparing himself, writing his books, deeply meditating, waiting till the time was right, waiting till Krishna gave him the opportunity. Seemed like impossible. Do you know that Prabhupada first wanted to go to Trinidad and then from there to the US? Because somebody from Trinidad wrote to Prabhupada in India and said, yeah, we'll organize something for you, you should come here. So I said, okay, close enough, not quite there, but close enough. So Prabhupada never got disturbed or never got discouraged. Even though it was a long shot, it was a very long shot. Getting a sponsorship letter, getting a passport, getting the clearance, getting a ticket, going there, and then the struggle just started, But Prabhupada was not fazed. Why? He had full faith. Full faith in the instruction of his spiritual master and the plan of Krishna. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudhridinishchoy Krishna Bhakti Kaira Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Firm faith that Krishna's mercy, Krishna's plan, Krishna's benediction, Krishna's will be executed. And I'm happy to serve in whichever capacity required. And that is the mood that we see here. Dhruva has this ambition, and his spiritual master gives him the process by which he can engage his nature, purify his nature, and transcend his nature by Krishna's mercy. And he's willing to bless his disciple and be an instrument of the Lord's compassion. That is parampara. That is what we need. We need representatives of Narada Muni. There's so many countries, there's so many cities, there's so many places, so many people who are not aware of Krishna consciousness. And it is a great opportunity to spread this Sankirtan movement far and wide. Yes, we can say, New York, the whole world is here. And you go out, you talk to the whole world, and people take Krishna consciousness, bring it back to their place. Just like from Nigeria, what was his name? The one who was pushing Sankirtan? Disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj? No. He passed away. No. Long time back. From Nigeria, his father was the finance minister. Maybe he comes back to me. Anyhow, he was studying in London, business administration, politics and diplomacy. But he saw the Harinam, he got connected. He became a devotee. And his dad told him that you don't give up this, I'll cut you out. I'll cut you out of my will. And he didn't care. He just joined the Hare Krishna movement, took initiation from His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha. Then his father cut him out of the will, but his father was on his last days because he was such a tyrant, he was such a headstrong man. Nobody of his family wanted to associate with him. But that devotee, he went back to Nigeria to be with his dad. He spent time with him, he nursed him, and his last days before he passed away. So his father gave him some factories, some property, and he used that to expand the Sankirtan mission. He sponsored vans, teams, paying stipends to devotees, instruments. They had traveling Sankirtan in so many countries. So he used his resources to expand. And he got connected in London. So many people got connected in New York. Then they go back to their countries and they become devotees. So it is a great opportunity. When people come here, they want to see unity in diversity. Diversity is nice, but they want to see unity. Like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Rath Yatra, there were 7 kirtan parties, and Mahaprabhu was dancing in all the 7 kirtan parties. But only the devotees who had that Prem Sankirtan consciousness, that team, love in cooperation, only they had that darshan. They could see Lord Chaitanya dancing in all the 7 kirtan parties. All the others thought, he's only in my group. Just like sometimes people think he's only in my church, he's only in my temple, he's only in my project, he's only in my sangha. No. You cannot limit Krishna. Krishna is unlimited. And he's willing to expand unlimitedly by the desire and by the loving cooperation of his devotees. Just like the gopis. When Krishna left the rasa dance, even though there were so many groups of gopis, and there was competition, there was rivalry, there was tension, but when Krishna had left the rasa dance, all the gopis together were remembering Krishna's pastimes. Tavagatamritam tapta jivanam kavipiriditam kalmasapam shravanamangalam srimadatadam bhuvigrinatye bhuridajanam. And that was so attractive that Krishna could not resist, and he reappeared. When he saw that unity, they were all together chanting and together remembering and together serving. He was so attracted. He was captivated. He was captured by that love, that loving service in unity. That is our goal. That is our meditation. That is our aspiration. We're very unqualified and foolish. We beg all of your mercy and kindness and forgiveness. Thank you for your patience. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Vikai Gaur Emanam.